I now call to order the regular meeting of the Fairfield Planning Commission on August 24, 2022. Dave, may we please have the roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Paul? Commissioner Greavy?
Here.
Commissioner Werblin is absent, and Commissioner Evans is absent. Commissioner Matthews?
Present.
And I believe Commissioner Childs is joining us tonight on Zoom. Commissioner Childs, are you here? No. Okay. And Commissioner Cruzen?
Present.
Oh,
Yes.
We do have Commissioner Childs and Commissioner Cruzen.
Present. Commissioner Greavy, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Persons wishing to address the Planning Commission on subjects not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission, provided that no action may be taken on off-agenda items except as authorized by law. Off-agenda items from the public will be taken under consideration without discussion by the Commission and may be referred to staff. Comments will be accepted in person or via Zoom. Public comments instructions. Did I read that? To speak on an agenda item in person, please complete a speaker's card and give it to the secretary before the meeting, or at the latest, prior to the time for public comments on that item. When joining via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature or press *9 on your phone to request to speak. You will be called on by name and will have 3 minutes to speak. Next is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are not.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'm sorry, Commissioner Paul, can you turn your mic on?
I do second.
Thank you. It has been moved and second to approve the agenda as submitted. We will vote by roll call. Dave, will you conduct the roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Paul? Commissioner Paul, do you agree with the agenda for tonight's meeting?
Do you approve?
Do you approve the agenda as presented before you tonight? Yes? Okay. Commissioner Greavy?
Yes.
Commissioner Werblin is absent tonight. Commissioner Evans is absent. Commissioner Matthews?
Yes.
Commissioner Childs?
Yes.
And Commissioner Cruzen?
Yes. Next is the approval of the minutes for the July 27, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes?
Not from staff.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I do second.
It has been moved and second to approve the minutes as submitted. Dave, will you conduct the roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Paul? Commissioner Paul, do you support approval of the minutes? Commissioner Greavy?
Yes.
Commissioner Matthews?
Yes.
Commissioner Werblin is absent. And Commissioner Evans is absent. Commissioner Childs?
Yes.
And Commissioner Cruzen?
Yes. This is the time for the public to speak on items not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. I will now open the public comment period. I do not have any speaker cards for public comment. Do we have any speakers via Zoom?
We do not.
I will now close the public comment period. The next item on the agenda is scheduled matters. Sorry, do you have comments?
No, these are for the scheduled matters.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is scheduled matters. For each agonized item, there will be a presentation by city staff. For items that involve application requests, I will then ask the applicant to address the commission if they do so desire. Then I will open the comment period via Zoom and in-house. I will close the comment period after all comments have been provided and after all our questions regarding the testimony during the comment period has been answered. After the comment period is closed, the commission will deliberate on the item and may have additional questions for staff. We cannot take additional testimony or questions from the public after the comment period is closed. All right. Our first item is item A, a public hearing on the request of June Lee of HPA Inc. on behalf of Will Parker of 80-12 Industrial Center LLC to develop 2 industrial warehouse buildings and associated site improved at 300 Chadbourne Road. Our staff person is Jonathan Atkins.
Good evening, Chair and Planning Commissioners. My name is Jonathan Atkinson. Tonight I will be presenting a collection of requests as part of the 8012 Industrial Center project. The requests include a general plan amendment, a zone change, development review, and an environmental review. The site is 19.44 acres of land at 300 Chadbourne Road, just south of Highway 12. There's currently a vacant building with a large surface parking lot on the site that will be demolished as part of the project. The site was formerly home to Walmart and has largely been vacant for over 10 years. The multiple parcels that comprise the site will be combined into a single parcel as part of a separate lot merger at the city staff level. This map and the previous slide identify the location of the site within the context of the surrounding area. The site is bounded by Highway 12 to the north and Chadbourne Road to the west. There are existing developments that surround the project site. These include dealerships across Highway 12 to the north, Jelly Belly to the east, Bush Campus Park to the south, and Sutter Health Medical Offices across Chadbourne Road to the west. The predominant land use south of Highway 12 near the site is a collection of both light and medium industrial operations. The site is currently zoned CR, Regional Commercial District, and has a general plan land use designation of highway and regional commercial. Areas with the existing designations typically include a collection of commercial uses that typically serve a market beyond Fairfield and Suisun City. City Council approval is required for a zone change to IL, Limited Industrial District, and a general plan amendment to Limited Industrial to facilitate the proposed industrial development. Areas with the proposed designations typically include warehouses, wholesale distribution, research and development, and light manufacturing and assembly, as well as some office uses. The Planning Commission would serve as an advisory body to the City Council for such actions as a zone change and a general plan amendment. The required findings to recommend City Council approval for both the zone change and general plan amendment are presented in both the resolution and ordinance in your packet. The project involves the development of 2 industrial buildings. Building 1 will have a building area of approximately 103,000 square feet, and Building 2 will have an area of approximately 225,000 square feet. The site will be accessible from 2 driveways from Chadbourne Road. 313 vehicle parking spaces are provided along the periphery of the site and around both industrial buildings. 57 loading docks and 43 trailer parking spaces are located within the interior of the site and will be screened by building wings and both existing and proposed trees. Heavy landscaping is provided around and within the site. The west elevation of Building 1 will face Chadbourne Road and will provide the principal building entrance. The north elevation will face Highway 12, and the south elevation will face Bush Campus Park. The east elevation, which includes loading docks, will face the interior of the site and will largely be invisible from the public right away. Building 1 will have a height of 42 feet. Both Building 1 and Building 2 provide a variety of materials, elements, and colors that break up the expanse of the large wall planes. The buildings will employ storefront windows and doors with aluminum framing and reflective glazing, metal tube steel canopies, elevation recesses, and parapets of varying heights. The aesthetic quality of the project and the surrounding area is preserved through the use of parapets to screen roof-mounted equipment, as well as building walls to shield loading docks from the public rights-of-way. The east elevation of Building 2 will face Jelly Belly and will provide the principal entrance for that building. The north elevation will face Highway 12, and the south elevation will also face Bush Campus Park. The west elevation includes loading docks and will face the interior of the site. Building 2 will have a height of 46 feet. Following a review of the project, staff prepared an initial study to analyze potential significant impacts under the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. The initial study identified biological resources, cultural resources, hazards/hazardous materials, and transportation and tribal cultural resources as potential significant impacts. However, all significant impacts can be mitigated to insignificant levels through the implementation of the mitigated negative declaration. The environmental document is included as part of your packet. City staff received a comment letter from Caltrans this afternoon on the environmental document. Copies are on the dais and have been provided to Chair Childs. Staff does not believe that there are any substantive changes that are required as a result of this comment letter. Any changes necessary would be incorporated into the environmental document prior to City Council adoption. Staff does recommend, in regards to that comment letter, the addition of a condition, and that would be the applicant shall obtain any required permits from Caltrans. And I'm happy to provide that language for the commission. So with that said, staff recommends the adoption of Resolution 22-09. This would grant approval of Development Review DR 2021-016. The Planning Commission would also recommend City Council approval of General Plan Amendment GPA 2021-003 and Zone Change ZC 2021-005. And lastly, the Planning Commission would recommend City Council adoption of the environmental document, that's the Mitigated Negative Declaration, ER 2021-038. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission has. I do want to note that the applicant team is both in attendance in the council chambers as well as available via Zoom should any questions arise for the applicants. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atkinson, for your presentation. Do any members of the commission have questions for staff?
Couple of questions, Jonathan. What's the approximate age of the existing Walmart building?
According to analyses prepared for the site, the approximate age is almost 30 years old. I believe the document stated that the Walmart was constructed in '93.
So there's no asbestos in that building at that age, I would assume. Is that?
There is a mitigation related to hazardous materials. My recollection was there's not asbestos, but there is language to deal with hazardous materials and any soils that are removed from the project site.
And I would assume dust control during demolition and obviously during construction will be part of the requirement that you'll develop for the builder. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's standard construction requirements.
It looks like there is I don't want to say a fair amount, but some office space. Do we have a rough approximation of the percentage of the building that will be office?
That's a question that I may defer to our applicants.
Yeah.
Right now, we have not identified, as part of the project, any specific users. Typically, industrial buildings have some carve-out space for administrative offices. If you give me a moment, I'd be happy to check the plans, but I would also like to defer
Well,
to the
yeah, we
to the
can-
applicant.
Hear from the applicant on that.
Yeah.
In that location, the building's 42 feet, correct? And my question is, does that zoning provide for 50-foot height?
Yes, so the proposed zoning is IL, and the maximum height in IL is 50 feet. Currently, the zoning is CR and allows 55 feet in height.
Okay, and this is 42, so in either case, it's clearly under that. Okay, thank you.
I had a question. Can you go back to one of your slides? I may have misheard you, but did you say that there were two entrances to get into the
That's
facilities?
correct. And both entrances are provided off of Chadbourne Road. It might be a little tricky to see on your screen there, but not sure if my cursor is appearing on the screen. About the mid section of Building 1, you'll see there's an existing entrance, and just south of Building 1, you'll see there's an entrance as well.
Okay, so I apologize in advance. So this is the old Walmart building. I know there's an existing entrance to get into there, so that would be one, correct?
There's two entrances for
Two
the
entrances in
existing
there.
site.
From the
And
existing site.
Proposed site will also have two entrances off of Chadbourne Road.
Oh, so there are already existing entrances. We're not creating a second one. My recollection was only one going into that facility.
There's two,
There's two.
yeah.
Okay,
It's just kind of overgrown with vegetation.
yes. Thank you.
Sorry, one more follow-up. I know when we were approving the Trammell Crow development, just a block or so down from here, part of that included upgrading the road. Will that be part of this development as well?
Give me one moment. There are a collection of public works conditions of approval that do deal with roadway improvements. There's a mitigation that deals with pedestrian and bikeway improvements. I'm not 100% sure if there are actual physical improvements that are being provided. So our senior civil engineer, Alvin Lay, is here to answer those questions.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Just to touch base about the question that you have on frontage improvements along Chadbourne Road for this project. A standard requirement for development within the city is for the developers to provide adequate frontage improvements, being sidewalks or curb and gutter, or repairing any damaged improvements, existing improvements along their frontage. Trammell Crow, similar to their development along Chadbourne near Low Court and Guittard, will also be obligated to provide for those improvements. Drawing a parallel with the Chadbourne Road and Low Court and Guittard development, the applicant in that scenario wanted to extend Guittard Way, and that's what, at their request, the city allowed them to extend that Guittard Way right-of-way, which is probably the extensive roadway improvements that you're thinking of. But similarly, they are also constructing additional frontage, sidewalk, et cetera, improvements for both of these projects.
I had a question for Mr. Atkinson. Aside from the hazardous materials that come with the demolition of the building, are there any other concerns that has been brought up? And did we also reach out to any of the neighboring facilities? Did they have any concerns as well?
With respect to,
The demolished demolishing the building? No concerns? Because I know Jelly Belly Factory is nearby. Were they interviewed or notified?
They were notified. They received, all property owners within 500 feet received public hearing notice, as well as a notice of intent to adopt the environmental document. We also provided notice in the Daily Republic. We have only received comments from a handful of persons. Those were comment letters that were passed on to the Planning Commission, and those were various labor groups expressing support for the project.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions from our commission?
To the chair, I actually had my questions answered earlier by Jonathan, so thank you.
Thank you.
I had just a quick question. Will there be any job impacts related to this project?
Sorry, I don't think I caught the question. There was a little bit of static.
Oh, my question was, will there be any job creation associated with this project?
So to answer that question, a few things. No specific industrial operators have been identified, but given that this is an industrial project, it's assumed that there will be some job creation. The number of jobs potentially, that's really dependent upon the user.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no further questions, I will now open the public hearing. And I do have 2 cards. Will Parker please come forward to the lectern?
Is it okay if we speak at this time?
Yes.
Okay. Is there still a 3-minute time limit on that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. We'll make it abbreviated. Thank you for having us. And thanks for the nice presentation, Jonathan. Very well done. I'm Will Parker. I serve as principal at Trammell Crow Company. I'm also in charge of our industrial business in Northern California. I'm joined by teammates Curtis Tubbs and Lena Pan from our local team. We have a whole cast of characters on the Zoom call this evening for Q&A and monitoring the project. Those include Teresa and June, our architects from HPA, Ahmad and Steve, our civil engineering team, David Blackwell, Land Use Council, Terry Huffman, Habitat Consultant, and James Allen, our arborist. I want to give just some context on the project, a little bit about the project. I'll try to answer some of the questions that have been asked. We are thrilled to be here talking to you about our second project in Fairfield. We were with the Planning Commission last fall, as you noted, discussing our first project located across the street from this one. We originally came to the area based on an opportunity to purchase land from Sutter Health, who we had a relationship with prior to coming to Fairfield. The subject project, this project tonight, we feel is complementary not only to the industrial fabric of Fairfield, but also to the relationship with the first project that we're building. We try to build projects that are nicer than any other building in the market. I think we've been successful doing that. We've done that with the help of the team on the call this afternoon, as well as the consultants. Ultimately, we're trying to recruit companies, and we think there's an opportunity to do that from the interior Bay Area to Fairfield. We're also trying to allow room for existing companies to grow into nice facilities. We typically do this actually in projects with more than one building. So instead of putting a single large building on the site, we've designed it with 2 buildings, a small building up front and a medium-sized building in the back. That signals to companies, one, that we have scale for them to expand in the future and control a portfolio in the area. Importantly, it also allows more companies to occupy a single building instead of being a small percentage of a larger building. And I think from a company's perspective, that's better. It gives them a standalone presence and improves their brand. That approach has worked very well for us throughout the Bay Area. We have, I think, first-class companies in our locations. Those companies include Google in 3 locations, Tesla in 2 buildings, Draxelmeyer in another building that's a supplier to Tesla, among other companies. As we discussed with city staff and neighbors, there truly is a need for this type of product in this location. The business park and industrial heart of Fairfield is all around this project, and the city is truly out of space for these types of buildings. That said, and in a potential recessionary environment or heading that direction, it looks to us like the demand for these companies has persisted, and I think it's important that we add to the supply of this product. But simply put, without that space, companies leave because they can't expand, or they go to other nearby cities, likely further up the I-80 corridor towards Vacaville and Sacramento. A couple notes about the project in site. The site has long struggled as a retail establishment, and I think we all know that. The existing facility, an empty Walmart, has been in that condition since the early 2000s. Unfortunately, it's attracted many, many break-ins and trespasser incidents. I talked to our property manager a few weeks ago on that topic, and he informed me that the total number of incidents during our ownership is 25 over the last 12 months. We have hired a professional property management team to address that issue. We've also have regular security patrols in the area to address it. We're thankful to the work of the local police department helping us with respect to that issue. Building a new project there solves that issue. I think it's an important one for the park to address, and having a nice Class A industrial facility in that location takes care of the issue. Regarding the new project, it will be a first-class light industrial space with ample glass, skylighting. I think it will present very well in that location and in tandem with our other site. This project will have a high environmental standard and be certified LEED Silver. We're going to great lengths to preserve the redwood trees on site. Talking to our arborist, we are preserving 126 of the trees that are currently on site and healthy. This project, on the jobs question, will employ approximately 260 construction workers during the construction process of the site, and many more when you factor in full-time employment beyond that. I did discuss with Economic and Planning Systems and Economic Think Tank prior to this meeting the likely jobs impact once the building is occupied, and it would be realistic for the total jobs to exceed 400 on a full employment basis post-construction. One thing, just thinking about the use with a vacant Walmart building, a retail user in that location, in comparison to a light industrial project, it's important to note that light industrial projects in Solano County have higher salaries. That's a fact, and I think it's important to note that retail tends to be pretty low. Local is important to us. We have, this is just a small item, but we do have a tab for our construction workers currently at the Journey Coffee across the street. We have already signed an agreement with 5 union trades on this project, similar to what we did on the previous project. As we get closer to finalizing construction documents with the city, we will reach out to the Chamber of Commerce and provide local contractors and subcontractors the opportunity to learn about the project and bid on the work. We've received actually some of those phone calls already, which is what we want to see. So we look forward to this opportunity. We kindly ask for your support, and we would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you.
Are we going to have questions? Oh.
I don't have any questions, but I do have some comments.
Hold on just a sec, Chair Child.
Can I have both applicants come up to the podium and speak, please?
We really submitted that for just in case.
Curtis Tubbs, please.
And Q&A.
Yeah.
Curtis is our lead development manager. He's responsible for building the project.
I can yield my time if that's what needs to happen. Happy to do so.
I think you're
So I
fine.
think what we're trying to do here is, to the chair, we have some questions for this gentleman, but do you want to hold those to the end? Is that what you're wanting to do, and have this other person speak first?
No, it's fine. If the applicant want to speak first, we can go ahead and let them speak, and then any questions can be addressed after that.
So I think in terms of that concludes our comments. We did, in the application related to the office question, show up to 39,000 square feet of office, which is about 12% of the space. It's a speculative project. We don't typically have a tenant until midway through the construction. But it's a very flexible building with a lot of glass and optionality on where the offices go to accommodate that.
Did you have any questions? Go ahead.
Would you mind giving us a brief update on your current project and what sort of activity you're seeing on those buildings? My recollection is that's a total of about 800,000 square feet as approved, but you're doing it in phases. Is that about right?
So the existing project is just south of Sutter, kind of catty corner to this side. It's 205,000 square feet, a single building.
The first building?
The first building.
But overall, were there four?
Commissioner Matthews, that was actually a different project.
Oh.
Their project, can you go back to the last slide?
Yes. This one?
Yeah, this was one that we approved, I don't know, maybe a year ago, on the west side of Chadbourne Road, on the Anheuser-Busch side of Chadbourne, a single building between Low Court and Guittard Court.
Apologies.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was the one further down. Okay.
Yeah, well, do you want to give an update just briefly on the construction?
Oh, yeah, construction's moving well. We are pouring foundations and slab. So walls should start going up before the end of the year.
Yeah, it's still a little early for tenant activity on that. We started to get some feelers and phone calls, but nothing concrete.
Usually that picks up once the walls go up. People
Yeah.
start seeing it as real.
And just, obviously pending approval of city council and working out final details, what's your sense of timing for when you would start demolition and would you wait, given 25 break-ins in 12 months, would you start the demolition as soon as the project's approved?
It would likely, we would still need to do our construction documents and then run those through the city. We would be looking to start probably year-end Q1 of next year. We're monitoring the vacant building and have it secured and trying to do the right things there. But in terms of the demolition, what do you think, Curtis?
Yeah,
in terms of-
that's correct. I mean, I would have to check with the city. I think typically we have to have grading permit before we can demo. I believe that's the rule in Fairfield, so it would be upon approval of a grading permit, we would start. Thank you.
Commissioner Greavy, did you have any questions?
Well, actually, we got some of those answered already, but I'm just going to make a comment. They are doing one thing really well. I drove over there the other day, and actually a security guy came over and chased me down. And so what you're doing, the company you're using, they are trying, so that's great.
Thanks for the update.
I had a question. Do you have any ideal tenants lined up? Or what are your ideal tenants for the use of the warehouse once built?
We would love to be able to say that we did have ideal tenants lined up. We don't. And typically, it's when the construction goes vertical, when the walls go up, and you can really visualize it when you're driving by. That's when it gets real. And when you have a finish date that you can communicate. I think some of the conversations we've had to date have been users that relate, to who's in the park, and those types of industries, which I think is to be expected. We're also hoping to see some opportunities from further in the interior Bay Area and recruiting companies here, as well as any that are looking to expand and want to be in a newer building.
Thank you. And then I have another question. I know you mentioned you were looking at 5 union trades to work on this project. Are they local or are they from the Bay Area? I mean, I'm pretty sure we have some union trades out here as well too.
Yeah, and
speak
I
on
think
that?
in some of those letters, they talked a little bit about the local aspect of what they're doing. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so the 5 trades that we specifically signed a letter with our local union halls, and there will be several other unions on the job. The 5 is just the group we've signed agreements with. Majority of, well, there'll be a significant number of union, there'll be a significant amount of union activity on the job.
Thank you. And I know you mentioned in beginning of Q1 of next year, you guys plan on demolition. Realistically, how many months do you think construction would take? Just out of curiosity.
With demo, about 16 months.
16
14 to
months?
16 months.
Oh, fun.
It's actually prolonged recently just with the supply chain issues, and we order the materials, way ahead of where we would have a year ago to account for that, but it has prolonged the timeframes for construction.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
No questions, just a couple comments.
Do we have any speakers via Zoom?
We do not.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Would staff like to respond to any of the issues raised by the commenters?
Yeah, I don't know that there are any outstanding issues left for us. No.
I will now close the public hearing and turn it back to the commission for their deliberation.
I'll just comment that we've got a world-class developer, Trammell Crow, experience in multiple markets, high-quality projects as has been presented here. The location, I think, is completely appropriate. I guess one question for you, Mr. Feinstein, is the current plan anticipating changing this from retail to industrial already, or have we gotten that far with, the new forward-looking plan?
Yeah, with the general plan update, it has not specifically addressed this site. The Trammell Crow Group separately came in and asked for a general plan amendment. Staff's going to look really carefully, we always look carefully at any request to change the general plan, but particularly in light of the fact that we are laying out a bigger picture vision for the city with the update to the general plan. And we're not necessarily going to support any and all requests for a general plan update, but this is one where it's very clear that the setting is industrial. You've got a commercial site that has not been a viable commercial site for many, many years. And so, this is all, you can look at it sort of as, just a one-off relative to the larger general plan update. It's one that, very clearly in staff's mind made a lot of sense. And so we said, yeah, this is one we can support. We would see this being changed to industrial with the general plan update anyways. So we felt very comfortable moving it forward with a recommendation of approval.
And, typically when you're converting from retail to industrial, you might have a concern about city sales tax revenue, but as noted, this has not been a factor at all, and in fact is a significant sort of blight condition. So all factors, considered, I think this is fabulous development, well thought through by city staff and the developer, and would be very supportive of it.
Just a couple of comments that I have. I think that this is very forward-thinking for Fairfield. These gentlemen brought up the point that they're trying to draw business essentially out of the Bay Area and move it this way. We have more affordable housing. This is driving in the very direction that what I'm hearing that our city is trying to do. So with that being said, I read every piece of information they provided, and I'm fully in support of this plan.
Anyone else? Okay, I just wanted to thank the applicant for answering all my questions. During the presentation, I wrote a lot, but when Mr. Parker and Mr. Tubbs, it's Parker, correct? I couldn't read your handwriting. You answered all my questions throughout your presentation, and I really appreciate the design. It's not just your boxy warehouse. It's aesthetically pleasing, and the thoughtfulness that came into the plants and the parking. And most especially, I'm very thankful that, you guys have security out there. I'm fully aware of the vandalism and a lot of stuff that happens. And I appreciate you guys thinking about the safety of our community and providing that security. So thank you.
I'd like to move that we approve resolution, is this PC 2022-09? Is that the correct resolution?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Dave, will you conduct the roll call vote, please?
I apologize. Did we get a second?
Yes,
for
we
that?
did, from
And-
Commissioner Greavy.
Commissioner Greavy? Okay. Yes. Commissioner Paul?
Yes.
Commissioner Greavy?
Yes.
Commissioner Werblin is absent, and Commissioner Evans is absent. Commissioner Matthews?
Yes.
Commissioner Childs?
Yes.
And Commissioner Cruzen?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you. Dave, do you have any items for director's report?
Yeah, I have several items. I want to just comment on your upcoming agendas. We don't always have items for your agendas, but we have items lined up for at least your next two straight meetings. So September, we fully anticipate having both of our Planning Commission meetings. Your first meeting in September, the main item we'll be discussing there is the housing element, the draft housing element for our general plan update. As I think we gave you a presentation several months ago on the regional housing needs allocation and how it would lead into the housing element update, which separate from the rest of the general plan, we are actually required to update once every 8 years. So it's moving forward on a schedule set by the state. And so we have a draft of that document. It was just released. It was just put out on the city's general plan update page, fairfieldforward.com, if anybody wants to look at that. Staff will forward in the next couple of days a link with some information for you so that the commission can start looking at the draft housing element earlier than you typically get a staff report. We'll forward your staff report to you on the normal schedule, but we'll give you a link to the housing element, the draft housing element for you to look at. And so you'll be reviewing it and making recommendation either to forward that on or if there's any changes you'd like to see to that document. So, and then we have several items lining up for your second September meeting. Not yet fully sure if we're going to get both of them, but we do anticipate that meeting happening.
Do any commissioners have information items?
Just a quick report on the Sonoma College training. I didn't see anybody else there, so I maybe I just thought it'd be helpful to share a couple of quick things. There are slides from the presentation. If any of the commissioners are interested, I can forward them on to you, but there's a presentation about demographics, in particular Northern California demographics and what's changed pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, and how that ties into development and planning concerns. There was a great presentation on the changes with respect to miles traveled and the impact on development, and then finally a presentation on the RENA issues. So it was nice, contained, 3 hours, and I do have to say that campus is absolutely gorgeous, and would encourage fellow commissioners, as your time allows in the future, to participate.
Thank you.
And I'll also note that their planning program, it's very, it flies under the radar a little bit, but Meili Sheehan, who works for us, came out of their planning program, and they just do a really good job of training their planners. So shout out to Sonoma State.
All right, so we are adjourned to our next meeting on September 14, 2022.